Hey guys, welcome back to the Glory Living channel. My name's Hannah, and today we are going to be making one of my family's absolute favorite desserts, pumpkin bread. And guys, I'm telling you, this is the last pumpkin bread recipe you are ever going to need. Well guys, a few years ago I stumbled over this pumpkin bread recipe and it is amazing and our family has loved it. I've done a few tweaks to it, really nothing so big that I'm just going to give you the original blog post. It's not my blog post, it's someone else's, and I'm going to tell you what I do to change it that I think makes it better personally for me. But I'm going to show you the original post so you have the original recipe as well. This is so good, guys. It's so good. It is an addictingly good pumpkin bread recipe. I have made tons of loaves already this year and they've all gotten eaten. None of them are making them into the freezer. So we're going to make some more today. Try and slip them in the freezer before my husband gets home. And I hope that you will enjoy this recipe as much as my family absolutely loves it. Let's go check it out. Okay, so before we get started with our recipe, you are going to want to preheat your oven to 325 degrees for baking these loaves of pumpkin bread. The original recipe makes 2 loaves of pumpkin bread, but we today are going to make 3, which is kind of an odd thing. The way that I change the recipe, and it's not even really changing it, but I have found that I actually like it better when it's doubled. And this happened because I would always buy bigger cans of pumpkin, and I didn't want to use just half the can of pumpkin. I would use the whole thing and double the recipe. That doesn't always work well with baking, but this recipe, I think it's even better. But I like it better when the recipe's doubled, but instead of making 4 loaves, I make 3. And honestly, I like the size of the loaves better. I just like the texture. It's so good. And the original recipe is good just the way it is too. And if you don't want to make as much, I totally understand. But for me, our family loves it so much, I can freeze it. And if I can make it there before they try and eat it all, they love it so much. So for me, I love doubling this recipe. It calls for obviously more sugar, more butter, more flour. But I think overall, that's the better choice for our family. And so I'm going to show you how we do it today to get 3 awesome loaves of pumpkin bread. You can make it into 4 if you wanted it, but we are going to do 3 today. Okay, we're gonna do a run through of our ingredients before we get started. So obviously we're making pumpkin bread. You're gonna need 100% pure pumpkin from a can. If you have it from your garden, great. Her original recipe called for 15 ounces. This is a 29 ounce can, but even though it's lacking that 1 ounce, it doesn't make a difference at all. Some people are really like, they love Libby's, like everything needs to be Libby's pumpkin. I'm not that way. This is just generic store brand. I've gotten at Aldi, Kroger, and they all come out good. I think you can do even the cheapest type of pumpkin that you find, and to me, it has not made a difference, and it's still super, super good. So, 1 can, I do the big can, the 29 ounces of pumpkin puree. Okay, remember this is a double recipe. This is double in the size. So it's gonna seem like a lot of butter and a lot of sugar and a lot of flour. But remember, this is normally in her recipe, it would have made 4 loaves. So just keep that in your mind. 4 cups of sugar, 4 eggs, 3 sticks of butter, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of cloves, 2 teaspoons of nutmeg, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and 4 cups of all-purpose flour. But let's get started getting our wet ingredients and our dry ingredients separated and mixed in together. Okay guys, so I want to combine our dry ingredients first before we move on to the wet ingredients. So what I'm going to need for just mixing things together, I have a whisk, a spatula. I'm going to use my KitchenAid mixer in a little bit when we get to beating the butter and eggs and things. So remember, we have 4 cups of flour, and in that we are going to put in our 2 teaspoons of baking soda, our 1 teaspoon of baking powder, our 1 teaspoon of salt, and then 2 teaspoons each of cloves, and of nutmeg, and of cinnamon. Oh guys, it smells so good. It's like, this is just like a little bit of heaven on earth when you smell the fall kind of spices of the nutmeg and cloves and cinnamon. It's so good. So we will just mix these in so the seasonings, or the spices, I'm sorry, are evenly spread out throughout the flour, and so is the baking soda and the baking powder and the salt. So we don't want clumps of any of those throughout our flour when we go to mix it in with the rest of our wet ingredients. Okay, so next we are going to move over to our wet ingredients. Like I said, remember, this is a lot of sugar and butter because we're making a lot of loaves. Okay, so we are going to do 3 sticks of butter in here first, and you're gonna want these softened. So put them out on the counter for a while before you're ready to use them. Or if you are in a hurry, what I have found to be the best way is to put them in the microwave on defrost, and that actually softens them without melting them if you get the timing right. Alright guys, I have got my handy dandy KitchenAid mixer here to help us get the job done. We've got our 3 sticks of butter in here, and we are going to add in our sugar. We are going to beat this on a medium speed until they are combined and just blended. Okay, so once this is all combined, you're going to see it really, it just comes together. It's going to be kind of like a thick, just sugary, buttery paste here. And what we are going to do now is we are going to add in our eggs. We are going to mix this with eggs in it until it becomes light and fluffy. Now remember, because we're doubling our recipe, everything's going to get a little more full in here than it normally would. This will take a few minutes. Okay, after a little bit, what you will see is it gets nice and light and fluffy from the eggs and the butter and the sugar. And our next step is to add in our pumpkin puree. You're gonna open up your can of pumpkin puree and we're gonna dump it on in to here. And I'm gonna show you what it looks like when you mix it in, because this might alarm you, but it is just fine. When you begin to mix in the pumpkin puree to the eggs, the butter, the sugar, and as you turn your mix around and start to mix it, it is going to look grainy, okay? Do not let that alarm you and think that you messed something up or something's wrong. That is totally normal, totally natural, and it's still going to be absolutely delicious. Okay, one of our final steps is going to be mixing in our flour mixture with the all the wet stuff, all our dry with all our wet. So we are going to get our flour in here, and like I said, I just want to emphasize this, it's getting full. If you don't have an apron on, you're probably going to want to put one on. This is about as full as I can get my KitchenAid to be. Okay, now I probably don't have to say this, but obviously mix this at a low speed until it is just combined. The just combined part is not natural to think about, but the low speed should be. This is gonna fly in your face. Low speed, I like to put my hands over here because sometimes the flour likes to fly out. And start mixing that in until it is just combined. It's going to be very full in the KitchenAid at this point. Okay, so once we get to a place where we feel like that is pretty darn mixed, we can mix the rest. I think it's good to just double check with the spatula to make sure everything is well incorporated in the bottom. You don't want the mixture to have big areas of just the pumpkin, sugar, and butter without the flour. That's gonna give you really weird textured areas of your pumpkin bread. So you wanna make sure everything is really evenly mixed in together. For me, because these are such big batches, there's always flour mixed in on the side that hasn't been mixed in all the way, or stuff at the bottom, the very, very rounded part of the bowl at the bottom. So it's always good to give an extra mix in, just to make sure it's well incorporated. Okay, if you watch my zucchini bread making recipe, you're gonna know that I like to put parchment paper inside of my baking bread pans because it's just easier to get out. I don't have to wrestle with them. I have nonstick, I've tried oiling. I think a few bad banana bread recipes kind of just made me want to do this for life. I need to experiment again without using the parchment paper, but today I like to just put my parchment paper in there, just a slim piece so I can lift out the pumpkin bread easily. So anyways, that's what I like to do, but you do not have to do that. If you just want to grease your pan, that's fine, but I'm going to do the parchment paper method. I just like it better. Okay, so I like to lay out all 3 of my bread pans, and then what I'm going to do is evenly spread the batter in between these 3 pans. As you can see, we have a ton of batter. You could totally make 4 loaves with this. I just like it better with 3, and so that's why we're gonna do it. It makes just a little bit bigger of a loaf, and we really enjoy that. Okay guys, so I have evenly spread out the batter in between these 3 bread pans. We are going to put them all in the oven at 325. Okay, I'm going to start at 55. Check it, it might end up being 65 anyways. Her recipe calls for 65 to 75 minutes, so it's always good, I feel like, at that point to check it a little early, just see, and you could always add more time, but I'd rather it be that way than have a dry bread. This bread has never come out dry for me, and we have always enjoyed a really moist, yummy pumpkin bread, but if you overbake it, you'll overbake it and dry it out. Okay, so we're gonna put these in the oven, and then we will wait 55 minutes, give them a check, and hopefully they'll be done and ready to enjoy. Well guys, it did take 65 minutes to bake these, and I think that's also because they were larger than the recipe would have normally had them be, since I only split them into 3 loaves. But these took 65 minutes, pulled them out of the oven, and oh man, they're gorgeous. The color is beautiful, and they are just like moist but done and great. And so I'm gonna slice it open for you so you can see what it looks like on the inside and just see the beautiful texture and just moistness of the bread. Okay, so this bread just comes great. You can even hear the crust on the outside. It's awesome. I'll do another slice for you. It's still a little bit warm. I've let it cool a little bit, but it's been probably a few hours, but it is still a little bit warm. But it is just absolutely beautiful, and it is very soft and very just delicious. This is our favorite bread. It's just a beautiful, beautiful pumpkin bread. Well guys, I hope you will give this pumpkin bread a shot. It is so good. It is the best pumpkin bread I have ever had, and I think you're going to love it too. If this video was helpful to you and you enjoyed it, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and please share our videos with your friends and your family. Those are the best ways you can support what we're doing in creating this content for you. Until next time guys, we'll see you soon.